Today's lesson is called Time Management Techniques that will make your life better. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.
My name is Roger. Today we're going to continue talking about how to better manage your time or time management techniques that will make your life better. Now, last time we talked about some of the most basic ways to better manage your time. One is simply to make a to-do list. That helps a lot. But if that's not enough for you, then you can improve on the to-do list by using the GTD method, or getting things done method, and that will divide your to-do list up into 5 steps. It will be a 5-step process, and all of these things will help you get things done so that you can have free time to relax and enjoy life. Now, today we've got some other ideas about time management as well.
Yeah. Now, back to the GTD method. I think it's a pretty good method, but I actually find that a slightly different way of prioritizing the tasks on my to-do list works better for me. Now, I agree with the fact that you should take the really small tasks, like the 2-minute tasks, and get them done immediately. But after doing that, I like to do the hardest, most boring task of the day. Getting that out of the way is really psychologically rewarding, and then what's left over are things that you kind of like to do. Okay, so you've gotten the small stuff out of the way, and also the thing that you don't want to do, that's out of the way too, and what's left are things that are relatively pleasant. That's always worked for me. Anyways, the GTD method is good, but there's even more coming up. We're going to talk about the Pomodoro technique and also time boxing today. So let's get to it, everyone. When we come back, we'll start learning about some more time management techniques that will make your life better.
The Pomodoro technique. This popular time management method got its name from the tomato-shaped timer that the technique's inventor used, as Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. The technique is simple. Set a timer for 25 minutes, work on a task for that entire time, and then take a 5-minute break. After every 4 25-minute intervals, give yourself a longer break. This system will help you focus, and it might even improve your attention span in the long run.
各位好，第一部分我们看到名词 inventor 指发明人、发明家。举例来说 ，Many inventors were present at the science fair. 许多发明人出席了这场科学展。或是 The inventor was worried that someone would steal his idea. 那个发明家担心有人会偷走他的构想。另外，补充这个字的名词 invention I-N-V-E-N-T-I-O-N invention 当可数名词指发明物。例如 Inventions like the smartphone have changed the way people get information. 智慧型手机之类的发明改变了人们取得资讯的方式。而当不可数名词时，指发明、创造，像是 The invention of the telephone occurred in the 19th century. 电话在19世纪时发明。接着我们看到单字 interval. 这个字是名词，指间隔、间距。例如 During the interval of the play, most of the audience went to get a drink. 表演中途的空档，大多数的观众都出去喝口水。另外补充一个相关片语 at regular intervals. 意思是定期，像是 We hold team meetings at regular intervals to discuss our progress on the designs. 我们定期举行小组会议来讨论设计的进展。
Okay, so we've got the to-do list and we've got the getting things done method. And now we're going to introduce to you another method of time management called the Pomodoro technique. And this popular time management method got its name from the tomato-shaped timer that the technique's inventor used, as Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. Now, of course, if you work in the kitchen and you bake cakes or whatever, sometimes you're going to need to use a timer. And various stores sell timers. And sometimes they're kind of cute. You know, they come in different shapes. I think I saw some timers that look like chickens before. And I guess there apparently are timers that are shaped like tomatoes. You know, you just kind of turn the little dial to the time, and then it starts clicking. And when the time runs out, it goes ding. And you know it's time for you to take the cake out of the oven. So this particular timer, or kitchen timer, is shaped like a tomato. And the word pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato. There you have it.
The Pomodoro technique, it's the tomato technique. Now, does this make sense? Not really, but that's where the name came from, okay? The person who created this particular technique, the inventor of this technique, used a timer, and it looked like a tomato. So the tomato technique, does it have anything to do with tomatoes? Not really, okay? The inventor of this technique used a tomato-shaped timer. That's the explanation behind this particular technique, or not the technique, but the name of the technique, I should say. Now, as for the actual technique, the Pomodoro technique, the technique is simple. Set a timer for 25 minutes, work on a task for that entire time, and then take a 5-minute break. So 25 and 5, that means you'll be working for 25 minutes and taking a break for 5 minutes. So there you go. You've just worked and taken a break for a period of 30 minutes.
Okay, so you're basically dividing your time up into 30-minute intervals, 25 minutes for work and 5 minutes for a break. And then you keep on going. So after every 4 25-minute intervals, give yourself a longer break. So yeah, you're basically dividing all your tasks up into more manageable units of time. This kind of reminds me of the Dale Carnegie system of dividing your life up into day-tight compartments. Don't worry about your whole life or about the whole semester. Just take it one day at a time. So that's kind of what this is all about. Just work for that 25-minute period and don't worry about what you have to do after that.
There you go. Intervals, by the way. When we're talking about intervals of time, we're talking about periods of time. Though usually when you're using this word interval, you're being somewhat specific, okay? You're talking about some time that comes in between two other periods of time, or which comes in between two periods of activity when you're doing something. That interval is like a gap of time in between those two things. Anyways, keep giving yourself a longer and longer break, and this system will help you focus, by the way, and it might even improve your attention span in the long run. Yes, if you train yourself to apply yourself to a task in this way, maybe your attention span, I should say, could improve or should improve. By the way, there are a number of things that you have to do together in order to make this technique work, okay? When you take all of these things together, these things that you have to do together, you put them all together, you've got yourself a system. Yeah, on your computer there, you've got an operating system. You've got all these pieces of software and all these applications and things that you don't really see, but they're all working together in the background to make sure that your computer works for you. Yeah, all of these things taken together, they work together and they form a system. And the Pomodoro technique apparently is a system, and apparently it will help you focus. In the long term, you might even improve your attention span. By the way, in the long run and in the long term mean about the same thing.
Yep, your attention span, basically how long you can focus on something before you start getting distracted. Like we often say, children have short attention spans, or maybe modern people have shorter attention spans than they did in the past. But as we know, this is often used in the negative. We say someone has a short attention span. I don't really hear people say, oh, I have a long attention span, so I have no problem. No, we usually focus on the negative here, a short attention span. So we want to improve our attention span by using this system or this technique.
There you go. Now, with that, folks, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. When we come back, we'll be talking about time boxing.
Time boxing. Another easy way to manage time is time boxing. This method is especially useful for meetings or group work because it helps keep everyone on the same page. The idea is to decide on how much time to use for activities beforehand. For a meeting, you would set a timer for each item on the agenda and stop discussing it when the timer goes off. This encourages people to stay on topic and be more productive.
第二部分，我们看到副词 beforehand 指事先的、提前的。例如 I didn't know our client doesn't drink. I wish you had told me beforehand. 我不晓得我们的客户不喝酒，我希望你能提前告诉我。或是 Double check your flight plans beforehand to make sure you make it to the airport on time. 事先确认好你的班机，以确保你能准时抵达机场。最后，我们看到单字 productive 这个字是形容词，指富有成效的、具生产力的。例如 The manager is looking at ways that she can make the factory more productive. 经理正在找方法让工厂更有生产力。或是 We had a productive meeting this morning. 今天早上我们的会议非常有成效。另外补充一个同义词 fruitful, F-R-U-I-T-F-U-L, fruitful 这个字也是形容词，指富有成效的、收益好的。我们可以说 The experiment had fruitful results. 这项实验有丰硕的成果。
Okay, so today so far we've talked about one time management technique, the Pomodoro technique or the Pomodoro method. And that one seems simple enough. Just divide your tasks up into smaller time units and use a timer to time them. Now we've got something called time boxing. Let's find out what this is all about. Another easy way to manage time is time boxing. Okay, that's an easy way to manage your time. You might consider using this particular technique. This method is especially useful for meetings or group work because it helps keep everyone on the same page. Okay, so this is useful if you are in meetings with people in your company or whatever, or if you work in groups at your job or in school or whatever, because the reason people use this particular method is because it keeps everybody together. It keeps them all on the same page. If you're on the same page, that means you're thinking about the same thing. Nobody is thinking about something else or daydreaming or whatever. You're all focused on the same thing.
We're all thinking the same things at the same time. We're having similar ideas on similar subjects. We're on the same page. And I'm guilty of something. My mind wanders sometimes, so I'm really bad in meetings, okay? If I'm at a meeting, I'll be the person that will be daydreaming, and people will say, hey, what's with this guy? He is daydreaming. We're trying to focus. He's not on the same page as we are. So I'm actually trying to improve my attention span because, yes, I am given to daydreaming. Sometimes I'm not on the same page with the other people who are in the meeting that I'm in, let's say. Anyways, time boxing. The idea is to decide on how much time to use for activities beforehand. So before we actually start discussing things, let's figure out how much time we're going to use for this or for that, and let's do that now, before the meeting starts, or beforehand.
Beforehand, ahead of time. Before you begin, you do these things. You determine how much time you need for each of these activities. Now, for a meeting, you would set a timer for each item on the agenda and stop discussing it when the timer goes off. Ding! When the timer goes off, when it rings, then you're supposed to stop, no matter what you are doing. So this, of course, is being used in a meeting. And first of all, you set the timer for each item on the agenda. Now, if you're in a business meeting, of course, you probably should have an agenda, which is a list of all the items you need to discuss or all the items you need to cover in the meeting. So you look at each item. First of all, we're going to discuss the expansion plans. Then we're going to talk about improving the factory. Then we're going to talk about health insurance for our employees or whatever. Those are all different items on the agenda. And of course, you basically only give yourself a certain amount of time, or you're time boxing for each particular item. And then you have to stop when the buzzer goes off, when the bell rings.
There you go. When the timer goes off, or when the alarm sounds, telling you that the timer has reached its end and your period of time is up. You stop discussing that thing and you move on to something else. And it says this encourages people to stay on topic and be more productive. Basically, time boxing helps people, one, to stay on the same page, to stay on topic, and it allows people to be more efficient and more productive. They get more things done.
Exactly. So that sounds to me like a very good time management technique that you might consider in group or work settings and not so much with individual things. Okay, let's wrap things up now with the final paragraph. We'll listen first and then we'll summarize it.
These are a few techniques that can be used to help manage your time. Try them out and see which one works for you. You might be surprised to see how big of a difference time management can make.
All right, everyone, let's go ahead and wrap up our article on time management and time management techniques. These are a few techniques that can be used to help manage your time. Yes, do these things and you will be able to better manage your time. So try them out and see which one works for you. By the way, if you try something out, you want to see if it works for you. You don't make it a part of your life right away, but you start doing that thing maybe for a trial period to see if you like it. You would make an attempt here to make this thing a part of your life, and if it works, you keep it. If not, you try something else out.
Yep, so we talked about some techniques here. We talked about the to-do list and getting things done. And we talked about the Pomodoro technique and time boxing. So again, these are just a few of the many methods and techniques that are out there. Maybe you can do some research yourself. Try them out and see which one works for you. So yeah, try them out. Investigate them. See if they work. If they don't, try something else. And you might be surprised to see how big of a difference time management can make. So you'll see that time management can make a big difference. That's the phrase here, to make a difference. Oftentimes it's to make a big difference, to have a significant change in the way things are done, hopefully for the better.
There you go. Make a difference. Change the world for the better. All right, folks, with that, it is time for us to take a break. But don't worry, don't fret. The Chinese teacher is on her way.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文最后一句他写到说 You might be surprised to see how big of a difference time management can make. 这个句子它是用 how 来引导感叹句，那么感叹句是用来表达对某人或某事物的赞叹。我们用 how开头的感叹句，它的句型是 how 加上形容词或副词，或者是 how 加上形容词或副词再加主词加动词。那这时候 how 是当副词，用来强调它后面的形容词或副词，去表达真是怎么样，多么怎么样。像 how beautiful 就是好美啊， how interesting this book is 这本书真有趣， how gracefully she dances 她跳舞跳得多么优雅。好，那么课文里面这个 how big of a difference time management can make 是指看到时间管理能产生多大的不同。那其中这个 how big of a difference 它用到 of 加上 a 或 an 加上名词去表达某事物具有某种特性。好，那这边再补充两个重点。第一个是 how 引导的这个子句呢是当受词用来当动词 see 的受词。我们也可以造类似的句子，像是 I wonder how big of a tent we should get. 我想知道我们需要多大的帐篷。那么这时候这个 how big of a tent we should get 就是当受词，也就是动词 wonder 的受词咯。好，那么第二个重点是这个感叹句里面包含了make a difference 这个片语，它表示说有重要影响或是产生改变，常常会用来指说正面或是好的改变影响。那么它还可以加入 big, a lot of 或者是 much, little, small, no 等等去形容它影响的程度。例如 sometimes a little help can make a big difference. 有时候小小的帮助可以造成大大的影响。好，那我们最后再帮同学们去补充用 what 开头的感叹句哦。我们刚刚是学 how 开头，现在学 what 开头。那么用 what 去引导感叹句的时候，之后要接名词。假设它是单数可数名词，那这时候句型会是 what加上 a 或 an， 可以加上形容词，然后加个名词，后面要再加主词动词也可以。例如 What an adorable baby she is， 她真是可爱的婴儿。What a mess， 真是乱七八糟。What a rude person， 就是真是个没有礼貌的人。好，那么如果用 what 去搭配复数可数名词或是不可数名词，这时候它的句型是 what， 这边可以加上一个形容词，然后后面再接复数可数名词或不可数名词，后面同样可以再加主词或动词。例如What nice people they are， 他们人真好。What beautiful music， 真是优美的音乐。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Inventor. The popular puzzle was named after its inventor, Erno Rubik. System.
Employees are taught how to use the new computer system.
Beforehand. If you want to see the show, you will need to buy tickets beforehand. Agenda. The agenda for our next meeting will be distributed the day before. Productive. Mark is a night owl, so his most productive time to do work is the late evening.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter, and the question is, do you think time management is important? What's your favorite time management technique?
Actually, I don't really use any time management techniques because, well, a to-do list at this point has been enough for me. And yes, that was mentioned during our lesson there, but I don't think that keeping a to-do list is really a technique, okay? The GTD was a method, a technique. The Pomodoro technique was a technique, whereas keeping a to-do list, that just seemed like common sense to me.
Yeah, and sometimes we forget to do it, but I think time management is important because we do need to accomplish things in life, and sometimes we get distracted by other things. So to me, the simplest is that to-do list. At least things are written down, and you know, if you get busy with things and you get distracted and you find out, gee, what was I supposed to do? I forgot all about it. I got distracted. Well, just take a look at that to-do list and you'll be right back on track.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.